Okay, folks, let's have a look at some of these. Now, these are equations, and what we're going to do is we're going to turn these into parabolas. Now, here it just says calculate the vertex. We're not going to do that. We're actually going to calculate more or less the whole thing and then plot it. So the way in which we're going to do that, probably the easiest way I would say, would be to go ahead and to turn it into a different form. Now, the form which we've got at the moment is what we call the quadratic expanded version. Expanded version of the quadratic. You could have the factorized version of the quadratic, or you could have the completed square version of the quadratic. But these don't, as far as I can see, turn into two nice factors easily. So the factorized version is going to be a little bit more tricky. So we're not going to worry about the factorized version. Instead, we're going to go ahead and we're going to use the completed square version. So let's go ahead and do that. So first of all, we're going to complete the square here. And to do that, let's make sure I've got, oops, it's all gone dark. 1 second. I'm not quite sure how to stop it doing that. I know it's the lighting somehow. I'm just going to turn it right down and then turn it right back up again. So hopefully this will work fine now. So let's go ahead, and I'm just going to take not the equation, but just the expression here, and I'm going to complete the square there. So I've got, this is number 11. Here it is. So I've got negative x squared plus 8x plus 16. And I want to complete that square. So to do that, I'm noticing the coefficient of x squared is a negative, in this case a -1. In order for this to work pretty seamlessly, it really needs to just be 1. So it means I'm going to have to actually factorize this as well to start with. So let's factorize it, and we're going to factorize it by multiplying everything by -1, because this is essentially a -1x squared. So here it is, -1. I can put that outside the brackets. I'm going to use large brackets here. So -1 times that is going to be a positive x squared, because -1 times x squared is -1x squared. And this is going to be a -8x, and this is going to be a -16. And there it is. So that's where we are to start with. Now, I'm now going to go ahead and take this, and I'm going to complete that square. Let's go ahead. So first things first, I've got my -1. Large brackets. I'm going to restate this bit here, which is x squared minus 8x. Now I'm going to leave a nice big gap here and put a -16 over here. And on one side of this gap here, one side of the gap, I'm going to add the b term here, and this is my b term. I'm going to halve it and square it. And on the other side of this, I'm going to subtract my b term, halve it and square it. So let's go ahead and do that. So first of all, here's my b term. It's -8, halve it, square it. And I'm going to add that. There it is. On this side, I'm going to subtract it. I'm going to put a minus here. I'm going to take my b term, halve it, and square it. And this time I've subtracted it. So the net effect of this is just, if I add that and I subtract that, I've just got what I had to start with. Okay, so let's see how this all plays out. So the next thing is -1, large brackets. Now I'm going to put smaller brackets inside here, and this is where the magic happens, because this whole bit here can be reduced to one expression. So I've got an x here, a squared here, and I take whatever's inside this bracket here, which is -8 on 2, which is -4. And there's my completed square, but for the bit on the end. So I'm going to add that in now, -16 minus, and I've got -8 on 2. Well, -8 on 2 is going to be -4. Square it, and I end up with a positive 16. So now I've got, and I'll just put a bracket around the end there. So now I'll just finish that up. I've got -1 all times x minus 4 all squared minus, well, -16 is 32. There it is. Now I'm going to expand this out again. So I'm back to where I was. Here we go. -1 times this is -x minus 4 all squared. And a negative times the -32 is going to be plus 32. So there, and I'll put a y in front now, there is now my my completed square version of the original expression. So let's have a look at now how you would plot that. So very, very straightforward to plot. And by the way, we can still use this one up here as well, because there's some very nice things that we can see in here, and I'll talk you through that as we go ahead and plot this. So here's the plot of this. So here is, let's see, I'll make this quite low down here. I'll make this like here. Here we go. So we've got a -4, which must be a +4. So we've got a 4 here. Here's my 4. And that's going to be kind of the vertex of this. And I've got it, so it's 4 along, and it's going to be up 32. Up 32, crikey. So it's like, here's my, let's call that 32, yeah? So there's 32 there. And then it's going to be all the way from here, all the way up to there, here, like this. And so it's going to go all the way up there. Now, the other question is, where does it cross? Because it's going to come down, right? But where does it cross the axes? Now, this is going to cross the y-axis at some point, but where would that be? Well, what we can do is we can go back to the original equation and say, well, what would happen if we made x 0? What would y be? Because if this was y, and we made x 0, well, let's make x 0. There's making x 0. There's making x 0. Oh, y is equal to 16. So that is our value there. So I can just go up here and say, right, 16, let's call it, is there. So there is my 16. Now, I can just go ahead and start to draw this now. My turning point is going to be here. It's going to be a negative parabola. It's going to head down, and we're not quite sure where it's going to go, but it's going to head down. It's going to do this. It's going to turn around and head back down like this. And this is not very well drawn. I must, actually, that's very, very poorly drawn. But we know it's going to cross down here somewhere and down here somewhere. And we can just find that out. Now, to do that, in other words, to find the x-intercepts, because we've got our y-intercept, which is 0 along, 16, we can find our x-intercept simply by using completing the square. So at the moment I've got my, and I'll just pop this in here, so I've got y is equal to negative x squared plus 8x plus 16. Now, I'm not going to complete the square manually. I'm just going to use the calculator, so it doesn't take up a long time on the calculator. But let's do that anyway. So my a value here, my a value is going to be -1. There it is. That looks like equals 1, doesn't it? So it's -1. My b value is going to be 8, and my c value is 16. So I can just plonk all of that straight in to, let's just see what I've got here. I can go, mix it, I can go 8, I can go and I can go clear. Now I just plonked that in before, and I did a different one there. Let's have a look, so clear all that. So I've got an a value of 1, let's go, or -1, there it is. A value is -1, b value is 8, c value was, what was it there? 16. Here we go, c value is 16. And I'm just going to go solve, there we are, solve. And I get -1.656. So this is going to be, it's going to cross here at -1.65. And I'm just going to go 65. In fact, I'm going to go 66, yeah? So that just to 2dp's. I'm not going to go too crazy. So it's going to be negative along and 0 up. There it is. That's my one coordinate. And on the other side over here, it's going to head downwards. It's going to keep heading down. It's going to cross here. And the point there was, so I've got 9, and I've got, so it's 9.66, yeah? So there it is. It's going to be 9.66, 0. And there are my two x-intercepts. Here's my y-intercept. And the vertex, well, the vertex is going to be 4 along, 32 up. So 4, 32 is my vertex. And this is a maximum, yeah? It's not a minimum, it's a maximum. It reaches the maximum possible value for y at that point. Okay, folks, hopefully that makes sense. Any questions, get back to me.